Hello and welcome to my new painting video. In this episode I'm going to be showing you how to do a simple impressionistic landscape with acrylics, starting off purely with black and white. Now sometimes I use Payne's grey and white, or in this case I'm using an ivory black. And I'm using a fan brush, it's a bristle fan brush, and I love these because they tend to produce random results, and that's all I'm looking for at this stage of the painting, is to produce a randomness. I'm blocking in the main areas where I want the subjects to be, such as this tree here, but at the same time it's producing a random, almost scratchy effect with the bristles of the brush. I'm going to have a building there, and this is going to be some dramatic lighting on the grasses in the foreground. I'm going to have a little bit of a building on the right hand side. So you can see I'm just basically, with the lightness of the brush, the touch of the brush, I can either go really dark with the brush, or by being lighter I can produce a greyish tone, almost scumbling really with the brush, and scratching in with the handle of the paintbrush also helps. It produces that randomness that I like to get at the beginning of all my paintings. Another squirt of the water bottle keeps it all moist. And at this point what I'm doing is I'm painting on a matte gel medium, and it's picking up a little bit of that black and producing a grey tone. Now I'm completely covering the canvas there because I want it to I want the paint to be able to flow in all parts of the canvas. Now what I'll do is just getting a bit of white now, pure white, and putting in some of the details. Well, they're not really details at this stage, it's still blocking in. And I don't use white, I use gesso. It's much brighter, much cheaper, and you can buy it in huge buckets if you want, whereas actual tubes of paint becomes rather expensive. So you can do quite a bit of detail with this little brush on its own, just by using the corner of the brush. You can pick out little areas. It's not about accuracy, this painting, it's about randomness and impressionism. So I'm blocking in the sky with a bit more pure white. And now I want the light on these grasses to be picked out here, where I want the sunlight to be hitting the grass. Mixing the white with the black produces obviously the grey, and these are the mid-tones, and start to produce a blending effect. You see it's taking shape already. I'm just slowly going over the entire painting, doing a few more details here and there. And it all builds up slowly but surely. I just need to refine a few of those little areas. I'm going to have some distant trees there. Now with the scraper, while it's wet, the silicone painting tool, I just move the paint around a bit and make it a little bit more impressionistic and abstract. I'll be going over the top of this again and again and again to produce different layers and depths of abstractness. It's quite a messy painting, this, but that's how I want it to be. I'm not looking for a detailed, nice farm scene with barns and the grasses individually painted. It's all about the expressionism of the tools at hand, the brushes or the scraper, and basically the lighting. That's the most important part of any painting, is the lighting. And I try and make it as dramatic as possible. In some cases, more dramatic than it actually is. Because remember, this is a painting that you can do what you like with. It's your imagination. And this is purely from imagination. I'm just making this up as I go along. Now those little shadows I put in there, they could either be sheep or little bushes. It doesn't matter at this stage. We'll see how it develops. Just refining it a little bit now, because I need the roofs to be actually straight and not higgledy-piggledy, not that much anyway. So they're straightened up a little bit now. It's very easy to get a little bit bogged down with these smaller brushes. You can start to fall into the trap of wanting to do detail. So I have to be very careful with judicious use of the smaller brushes. Of course, while it's wet, I always scratch my name into the corner with a little metal bradawl. Saves me having to actually paint it on at the end, because once I've got a few layers of paint over the top of that, transparent paint over the top of the signature, that'll be sealed in permanently. So with a smaller brush, just picking out one or two little details, and there are only one or two little details, because that's where I want the viewer's eye to rest and to focus on. All the rest will be very, very random and almost Turner-esque. So these are going to be little fences. And in an impression of a fence, I'm not doing every piece of wood on it, just an impression of it. And the little highlights on the edge of the roof. I still haven't decided whether these are going to be bushes or sheep. It'll probably end up as bushes. But being an impressionistic painting, it can be whatever the viewer sees them as. One or two little dots to show the light coming through this tree at the back there. Another squirt of water, and another layer, bringing out those highlights even more now with pure white, pure gesso white. Moving the paint around with my fingers if necessary, blending it, and really getting this paint quite thick, because the lighter areas should always be thicker than the darker areas. This is how the old masters used to work. Light thick, dark thin. But the dark areas need to have some transparency to them. So that's why you put little bits of detail or marks into the dark areas, and when you glaze over the top with the dark paint, they're still there and show a little bit of interest. So they're not completely black or whatever colour you want to paint them. So it's all about just having fun and messing around with the paint, seeing what comes out. The beauty of acrylic is, of course, if you make a mistake, you let it dry and paint over it. It's as simple as that. So you can keep going over the lighter areas, go over the entire painting and take it to whatever stage you want. You could take it to ultra realism if you wanted, but that's not the point of this exercise. This is to show you the randomness and the beauty of random painting. Using a palette knife now to make those lighter areas even more random. It's the paint just sort of falls off the blade because it's quite thick, this is, and creates these textures. If I wanted to add more texture, of course with acrylic paint you can add a texture paste to the white to make it even thicker. I've not done that in this particular painting. This is just the white gesso. Now we're going to the second stage, a little bit of a spray of water, and then we apply a coat of gel retarder. This is going to be the colour stage. So this gel retarder you can purchase from any store, any make, any brand, and paint it liberally over the surface. I always give it a squirt of water first so that it flows a little bit more easily onto the painting, onto the canvas. Now with transparent colours, I'm putting in a sort of a transparent yellow. It's an orangey yellow. But make sure it's transparent. Then those areas, the areas, all those details or random details you've put in will show through. And still show interest. Okay, I'm putting a little bit of burnt sienna. It's transparent burnt sienna, this is. You could use a transparent red oxide. This creates a little bit more warmth. Again, I'm being random, even though it's a small brush, I'm being random with the brush strokes. Not interested in going around the entire painting, making sure I've got all the, staying within the confines of an outline. Go over the edge of the outline, it doesn't matter. It's the feeling you want to get of the painting, not the realism. So again, a transparent blue. And we're just putting it in different parts of the painting so that it harmonizes. If you have a certain colour in one area, try and add it somewhere else in the painting to create a harmony. So again, I'm going over this darker areas with this, some of this blue and a little bit of red added to it to warm it up a little bit. Now, apologies for the camera just going out of focus there. It'll come back in a minute. There we go. Now this paint is still wet. The entire painting is still wet because it has the gel retarder. It does take quite some time to dry. So brightening up those areas that were bright to start with, making them light again. And then with a scraper, moving it around while it is wet. This produces some wonderful random effects. As I said before, it's very Turner-esque. You could let this dry and do it again, go over the top again with another layer of retarder when it's dry, and carry on and get to that thick Turner type style painting. But this is a fairly short video, so I'll not go on to another stage. I'll just leave it at the 2 stages. But this tool randomizes those edges. It's a lovely tool to work with. I suggest you try one. It's a bit better than using something like a credit card or a palette knife, because it is soft and will flex much more easily. So I'm just adding a little bit of colour to these fence posts and the fence, just with a small brush, so that they're not white, they're just an off-white, a little bit of burnt sienna. Transparent, of course. Adding a bit more texture with the palette knife once again. And it is still wet. The paint is still wet. A lot of people say that acrylics take too long, are too quick drying, but to be honest, if you develop a fast method of painting, and sometimes it takes too long to dry. So try and develop a speed when painting with acrylics. And you'll only do that if you're not bothered about attention to details and you're doing impressionistic style paintings. Then it's wonderful to use. I've gone a little bit too white with that, so I'm adding a little bit of yellow ochre. Only a tiny touch, just to the whites, just to warm it up a little bit and softening certain areas. Use your fingers, use whatever you want. It's all good. You can scratch and scrape into this as well if you wanted to. But I do love the randomness of a painting knife. It does something that a brush can't. That was a mistake. I went a little bit too light there. So I'm just going to darken a little bit of the area. You see, you can go over mistakes. If it looks good, then don't touch it. Leave it as it is. Okay, I think we're just about finished then. And that's it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and possibly learned something. I look forward to any comments or questions below that I may be able to help you with, or if you have any suggestions as to what you would like to see in my forthcoming videos. If you have enjoyed this video, then please click the like button and the little bell icon to be notified of my latest video releases. It would also support me greatly if you could subscribe to my channel, please, by clicking on the subscribe button. If you want to view some of the paintings I currently have for sale, then please click the link below. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and happy painting!